Hello, hello, hello. How are you? I am live. I'm going to wait till a few people get in here because, this is the first time that I'm doing live. Let's see how it works out. Look at my hair. There's a massive thunderstorm out today. And I'm just in the cottage sketching and rolling footage, recording footage so that I can create my window box pattern, and it's for the episode of my Patreon, which will be the outer look of the cottage. And hello, how are you? Are you coming in? Look, I did not comb my hair today because I'm in the cottage. There's a thunderstorm. I'm hoping that the Wi-Fi doesn't go out because, well, I do have candles, so I'm a bit prepared, But yeah. Oh, sorry about this. That's a little bit much, no. But you know what? I wanted to come on and just have a chat with you while I was painting because it's very quiet in the cottage. And can you hear the thunderstorm? Can you hear it? I don't think I have the live chat on. Let's see if I have the live chat. So yeah, so you want to see what I've got started. This is my, can you see that? It's a design that I'm sketching for the, for Scarlet Rose. Like, this is Scarlet Rose Cottage, okay? And so it's based off of the story. I'm sure if you've read my blog, it's based off of the story that I wrote called The Tale of Mermaid Scarlet Rose. So it's very much just like, it's so similar. It's very much like The Tale of Peter Rabbit, but instead of a rabbit, it is a mermaid, a young girl, a young mermaid. And so I named this cottage off of, I wanted to explain to you, because some people, when you don't have video or you don't have the narrative, perhaps, is that the right way to put it? If you don't have the narrative, you're kind of like, what's going on there? You don't understand quite as in depth, should I say, when someone doesn't tell you about things, you know what I mean? So when I'll tell you the little story, okay? So, but anyway, this is the window box, and I'm doing it. I'm going to, I'm sketching it out, and I went yesterday to the hardware store. So I'll be carving this out of wood. So this will be the window boxes. There's only 2 windows in the cottage, Scarlet Rose cottage, so it won't be a lot of work to duplicate that. I'll just use carbon paper, and I'll trim, do the same pattern on the piece of wood, and then I'll be able to etch it out and carve it out of the wood. A good note to remember if you're an artist and you like wood carving, but you've never, maybe you haven't done things on wood, or clay or anything like that, and you've only done it on paper. Poppy wood is the best. Is it poppy? Am I thinking poppy wood? Poplar wood? Oh my God. Now see, I'm live, so I can't figure it out if that's correct or not. If someone can tell me in the comments. I just buy it so much that I'm like, is it poplar wood? I can't look it. I'm live on my phone, but yeah, so it's a really dense wood, so it's really easy to carve, so it's really, really nice. And anyway, so let me tell you about the Scarlet Rose Cottage. So what happened when Sawyer died, we popped his clogs. I tried to make light of it because, it's a very tragic thing. So that's the way, you no longer wonder why comedians, they take their tragic tragedies, yeah, tragedies. And I can't talk. I've not been talking to anybody. I've been in here like head down, you know, sketching all morning. But anyway, yeah, so they turn tragedies into triumphs, should we say. Let's say that, right? But so when Jeffrey Sean and I, my husband Jeffrey Sean, moved to live with my parents, we hello, how are you? Give me a wave out there. What are you doing? Hello, darlings. I want to see the chat. Let's see. Okay, so, okay, I changed it then. Now it's showing the chat, okay. But anyway, can you hear it raining? Is that lovely on the tin roof? I like it a lot, you know. But so when Jeffrey, Sean and I moved to my parents' house, we, hello, darlings, how are you? I thought I would try chat like this, you know. Let's hope my phone doesn't go dead. If it does, the electric goes out or something like that. I know you got cell phones still, but you have to have internet, I believe, yeah. So, yeah, do a hotspot. But I'm getting on with it, okay? I'm getting on with it. So, yeah, and in my, you know, horrific sadness when we moved here, you know, we were just like kind of bunking out in one of the guest rooms at my parents' house. And so as time passed on, we didn't know what we wanted to do. So we were like curious, like, should we just continue to save this lump sum that we had just received when we sold Jeffrey Sean's house in Tampa? And I say Jeffrey Sean, although we were married, but he had previously owned the house before we, you know, hitched up, should we say. And I know I say should we say and like, and there's lots of things that I say similar, but that's how we all are as people, aren't we? We have like favorite words that we like. So we were just, you know, hanging about because I didn't really know what to do. I was still in the grief and just stricken with grief, and I wasn't thinking like, oh, should we go out and buy a house right quick or whatever. And I never wanted to make a terrible mistake about that because, you know, I live the law of attraction, so very much I understand like energy, alignment. You know, I don't want to manifest something that would not in the long term be something good, because then you've got to like, albeit you can reverse that and you can change time, you can change anything you want to. I didn't want to have to go through that, you know, the old salt. I call my ex-mate the old salt, you know. And so we had moved so many times, and so I was very reluctant to want to move again. Like that was one of my desires, that I was like, I want to move into my forever home and I don't want to have a mortgage. I never want to have a mortgage because, now listen, I'm spilling the beans, am I not? When the old salt and I first got married, you know, when you're young and silly and naive, you know, you're not quite sure what you're doing. You're kind of fiddling around till you figure it out. And so, yeah, we had tried to live keeping up with the Joneses, should we say, keeping up with the Joneses, and we could not do it. And so we were on a very low budget, but we were trying to do it nonetheless. And so we ended up having to walk away from our home that we had purchased and file bankruptcy. And so that was so traumatic for me as well. And so I was like, I would never want to go into debt. I want to purchase a home straight clear away. You know, I want to pay cash for it. I don't want to feel like someone could come take my house, you know. And so I wonder if you could relate to that. But yeah, so listen, and the other reason, so let me just side note this. If I look like I'm squinting or something like that, it's because I have, you know, all of my lanterns, I got 2 candles, but all of my lanterns in the cottage are kerosene. So if you know anything about kerosene, although they may be, it's the low odor, it says odorless, but it's not really odorless. Jeffrey Sean bought that, you know, in the big gallon things of it for me. So in case, you know, because we do live in Florida, so a lot of times we will lose electricity. So it's very beneficial both ways, but also just because that's the only kind of lighting I use in the cottage. You notice that the clouds went away so you could see it got a little bit bright in here. But anyway, that's the reason I squint, because it's kerosene and the lighting is very much different than a candle. Like this is the beeswax, okay? Let's do some instructional video. That looks dreadfully scary. I look ghastly, don't I? Oh, what not? And so anyway, so yeah, I have tons of them right around here because when you can't see, you know, on the I got a little magnifying glass, but it's very difficult to see in the cartridge. So I was like, yikes, it's very difficult. So anyway, back to what I was saying. So when we moved into my parents' house, the main cottage, which I call Carter's cottage, we didn't know what we were going to do. So we stayed sat and we were like, let's just figure this out first. And I needed to heal more, to be quite frank. I needed to heal. I did not know I was coming or going, you know? And so the more that time lagged on or something, I really felt like I had written The Tale of Sawyer Lamb. I wrote that in like 6 hours, his story. But for some reason, every time I would go to, I might get a little teary-eyed on you too, but this is just me chatting with you, you know, like you're dear friends of mine or something, but I just couldn't bring myself to paint. I couldn't bring myself, which is odd because normally when I felt sad, even as a little girl, when I was having difficulties or something like that, I would always be able to paint. It always made me feel better. But for some reason, there was so much emotion tied to that book. And because I wrote it in just the pure, utter, just raw grief. And it had to, and I know from this day forward that it came from spirit, you know, it came from Sawyer, and I also believe it came from Beatrix Potter, like if you believe in spirit guides and things like that. I know that book came from there because I don't know to this day where that book came from. I was just writing really, really fast, and it was making me feel better because it was about Sawyer when he was a little boy and sort of his life, you know. And sorry about that. I'm getting so teary-eyed. You know, it just comes on you like that too sometimes when you're dealing with grief. And, you know, you'll be good for, I haven't cried in, a long time. I'm usually normally able to talk about that. Maybe it's my premenopausal, I don't know. But yeah, so anyway, after I had done that, I didn't want to paint the illustrations to the book. I had so much emotion tied up in that book, and so the manuscript has just been sitting until, you know, November of last year. And then remember, I went and within 3 days, I wrote and illustrated. I still have not painted the illustrations for the tale of the Christmas bunnies, which I would like for that to come out in June, you know, July, like Christmas in July. You know how like Americans do that? I don't know if other countries do it. Does England do it? Does the UK do it? But a lot of times in America, like we'll do Christmas in July. And so I'll tell you where that stemmed from too. Let me write that down because Christmas in July, hold on. I'll tell you where that actually originated from, and it was the Victorian era. So we'll have a chat about that. But anyway, yeah, so I'm getting to the point. Yeah, so what happened was I stuffed that, you know, I buried it in the closet, and I just couldn't do any more with the manuscript. I mean, the manuscript was done, but I couldn't paint. Every time I would try, I just would bawl because every time I'd read the words, I couldn't bear to get through it, and it made me feel so sad, deeply, deeply sad. So I just buried it in the closet, and I was just like, it's not meant to be. That's what you do is when you learn to be when you learn that you are a conscious creator, no longer like manifesting just on from conscious reality, because right, we're all conscious creators and we always have been and always will be. But when you recognize that you are the God of your reality, that you are the one that wields things into place just by your thoughts, now that's a deeply spiritual avenue or current that I would go on another day. But I no longer believe that, you know. I know that I'm a conscious creator, so whatever I'm creating is of my own doing, okay? And so I did not want to do it. And I knew my inner guidance system, my mermaid inner being, the God within me, right, was telling me it's not time. So I needed something to do with my hands because I'm very much an artist, right? So all artists will relate to me when I say this, is that, hello, how are you? How are you guys? Are you doing well? Do you like the lives? Give me a thumbs up if you like the lives. I know it's more of like a little prattle session or something, but I think it's rather fun to come and talk to each other, right? You see my apron, I got my little tie is under there. So like I was saying, when when Jeffrey, Sean and I were here and I was still trying to figure out, like I did not know what I was going to do, I was very much like, I need something to do. So I started setting the intentions of, I need to do something. I've got to get busy. I've got to stay busy because it would help distract me from the mire of my thoughts, you know, the great, great sadness. And I wanted to be different than other people that have grieved a loss of a child that was murdered, you know. I did not want that to be my, not being a victim, but I did not want that to become my label, like this poor, sad, grieving mother that always wears shades of black and black lace upon her face. You know what I mean? I'm being dramatic, but you know me, I'm always dramatic. So, yeah, so one day after meditation, I decided, I was like, you know, my dad has this storage place, right? Because this place was my grandmother's, and the 10 acres around it was my grandmother's. And she had a place called, it was called Carter Village. And she would rent out these cute little white wooden cottages, and she would rent them to people that were less fortunate. And so they would live here and pay her rent each week. And so we have a lot of like slabs everywhere, okay? And like where the cottages were torn down because of, you know, my grandmother no longer living, and about a decade before she passed, they were all, you know, bulldozed down and removed. But there's still that, you know, the foundation on some of the areas where the cottages were. Well, this was one of them, but she used this one. I believe it may at one time have been a cottage, but then it was also in later years, it was a storage unit for all kinds of antiques that my grandmother would provide for the little cottages, all the antiques and everything. And so what happened was, this was completely ruined, right? It was ruined from mildew and everything, because in Florida, you know, we very much have that. And so, let me move this. Let me see if that candle is better. So when it was ruined, what happened was, it was sitting full of just shit. It was sitting full of things, and nothing was being done with it. And so it wasn't being used or anything because it was very hot. There was no, you know, air conditioned unit or anything like that. And so what happened, I always say what happened was, well, one day in my mind, I thought, what if I turned that into like a little cottage? Like, and literally I could live in there. You know, Jeffrey, Sean and I could live in there because it was already plumbed for a toilet and a shower, or like a sink or something. I think, no, it was a shower. And so there was like a little cistern, is that what you call it? Like for the well, like where the water would go and everything. And it was small, rather small, but I thought, you know what if I did that? Like I literally could be creative and do that, and that would give me something exciting to think about. And I was like, of course I wanted to name it and everything like that, and I thought that would be fun and stuff, you know. And so I talked to my dad about it, and I said, you know, could I do that? And then I would just like have the projects and everything, and I will create little episodes, and maybe that might be fun to put on my blog. That's what I was originally thinking, until then I heard about the Patreon. I heard about the Patreon, and I was like, what if I did that? That might be fun. And then people could watch me, and then I didn't know where it was going, but I thought that would be really interesting. And so that's sorts of how it turned into Scarlet Rose Cottage. And I mean, I guess I could show you about. It's not entirely clean, but I could show you about. Let me show you about, right? So see, this is my old, this is an old sewing machine, and I keep this here because I'll put the cutting board on there and I can do that kind of thing. This is just two antique chairs that Jeffrey Sean's brother and my sister-in-law gave me. They were her great-grandmother's. And this was Sawyer's table that I got out of his home when he passed. And this is a little fun antique little thing. I turned it into a little sewing kit. It was just something that didn't have a bottom or anything. And then this is my little Notorious that you see a lot of times in the pictures. It's got all my teapot. Oh, excuse me. It's got my teapots and all of my collections. A lot of these are my grandmother's. The Blue Danube dishes. Do you remember that on the Little House on the Prairie? Do you remember that episode where Charles was working for that really fancy lady doing all the housework? Do you remember that? He was doing all the fancy work for the lady, and Mary and Laura thought that. This is the icebox that I currently, and then I've got all my more things. There's my plate that's from Molly Manuel. Molly, if you ever see this, that's from Granny. And then I use that for my timer. And that was my grandmother's. That's a real coffee grinder. And then we've got these were from my cousin Breenie. And it has all my sugar cubes in it. And yeah, these are the. Also, this is my recent preserves that I went and picked at the farm. And let's see here. Let's see. This is none of this stuff is pretty much done. But this is where I sit and everything. This is where the toilet and the outhouse it's like an in-house outhouse privy, which will be. I made all these pillows, I made all those needle points. And then look at this, you guys. Look how pretty this is. This is my Mermaids of Earth book. Isn't that exquisite? And it's so fancy. It's got all the mermaid statues everywhere in the world, and it's just wonderful. Even Wiki Watchy is on here, which is really, really wonderful, and Cornwall and all of that. And yeah, so I've got more cross stitches. And see, there's me when I was a mermaid at Wiki Watchy. That was me in one of my parts. And I love sea life things, obviously. And I think that's it. Oh, sponges, and then, yeah, or charcoal. I'm not, if that's that. And then that's my sketch, the Mermaid Inn in Rye. I love. So, what did you think about it? Did you like it? Did you like me giving you a little tour? You can dodge into the house without getting utterly